Hello, hello, soulful seekers. We are back here on Trauma and Transcendence. It has been a moment, but you are well served for having been patient and waiting because today I have a very special guest. I know I say that about a lot of guests, but this has been an episode in the making since, oh my goodness, August, July, May. As you can see here today, I have the lovely Sandra Gelinas. She's the Akashic Alliance founding member, master teacher, and co creator of the Akashic Illumination Deck. You didn't know that was a thing, perhaps, but today we're going to go all through exploring it. But first, I'd like to welcome Sandra here to the podcast. Welcome, Sandra.
It is. It's really great to finally get to do this. I've been looking forward to this, like you said, for many months. So I think our backgrounds have a nice blend of overlaps and not overlaps. And so I look forward to talking with you today.
So you've been on your Akashic record journey for a very long time. What an amazing and profound journey it's been. What began that for you?
It's probably one of the few really metaphysical things that ever happened to me. I was a very normal person, but I was coming out of the library one day. I was living in a country town in Australia, and a book fell off the stacks at my feet.
It's a bit more literal than that. When you say I'm coming out of library, it's like, yeah, they do have that sense of humor, don't they?
I remember I was like, I can still see that picture of really visual. And I was like, coming out, I know libraries are kind of dark, in the back, and then they have maybe windows. This one did at the front. And so it's coming out going towards the light. Plonk. This book fell off right at my feet. And I'm, a neat and tidy person and love libraries. And so I picked it up. And of course, I read the little back on it. And it was a biography of Edgar Cayce, who was called the Sleeping Prophet. And he was around in the 30s and the 40s, and an amazing man, a gifted man who could go to sleep and channel the Akashic Records. Never had heard of them before, but at that time I was a naturopath, and I thought, well, this sounds really interesting because he did a lot of healing information for people. Go to Dr. So-and-so on 6th and Vine and get the bottle of blue goo, and, you'll be right. And he did really well like that. And so I thought, wow, if I could, I had 5 modalities that I prescribed in, but if I knew which one would be the best one, wouldn't that be something I would like to do? So I read the book, and my soul made an agreement that when my teacher turned up, that I would go. So 25 years later in America, I heard about a lady that was teaching people how to access their records. And I went, oh yeah, me. So I signed up and went, and then everything took off after that. So 2004. Yeah.
I love that it's laced with the metaphor, with the humor, the whole bit. The first way that I entered into the records actually was I had a roommate who was profoundly practicing. We were already on a mediumship journey together, and we'd make a deal that I would attune her to Reiki and she would attune me to the Akashic Records.
You're lucky.
And then it was profound. I think we had those contracts to grow together. And just like you, we were on a drive somewhere after the attunement, and there is a book in the middle of the highway with just flapping. And it's one of those big leather, thick bound cover. And it's like, oh, of course.
Wow.
They do love their symbolism, and they do have a sense of humor. It's just wild.
They do have a great sense of humor, and they pun, which I don't pun.
Yes, they do.
And so I
Yes,
get wonderfully excited whenever there's a pun or really like catchy, like soundbite little thing, phrase they come up with or something. And I go, well, we know that's you, not me, because I don't do that. So what was the book? Now you got me curious.
It was actually just, I think, possibly like a version of a Bible. It was in the middle of the highway, so I couldn't get close enough, but I snapped a photo of it, and every now and then it comes back in my Facebook reminders about this day on this time, and it's like, and I always kind of see it in a good prominent time. I wanted to ask, have you been to the Edgar Cayce AR?
I have not. I've had many times when I planned to go, but it never worked out. When I was in Australia, certainly that was one of my dreams, was to get to the Edgar Cayce Foundation. Again, Virginia just was never on my travel path when I was going to the States. So no, it's still a possibility for me to go there sometime. I think it'd be a wonderful experience. I feel I have a lot to thank him for, that he alerted me that there even was this Akashic Records thing and prepared me. I've read a lot of his different biographies and books that he's written over the years, and I think he was just an amazing person. Can I just do you a little story here? Edgar
Yeah.
story. So when my two partners, Shonda and Nancy, and I were working together, we've been working in the records for a little while, and we came back and we asked one day, why can't we do what Edgar Casey did? You know, the name of the street, the doctor, and what to take. And I was really fascinated that the record said that was what was needed at that time. A very physical, a very grounded, exact thing. The three of us work more with emotional trauma and disturbance and erroneous beliefs or repeated patterns that just keep happening. And so we're working on a whole different wavelength and we're going to different part of the records than he was. And so they said, so don't compare, don't there's no need to feel that you need to be another Edgar Casey version. And so we thought that was kind of interesting because that was what we thought they were going to say. Work hard enough and you will get there. No, they didn't say that. Enjoy.
Very different soul contracts, very different things to bring out into the world. I mean, he definitely was ahead of his
Yeah.
time. But I love going to the ARE. If you ever get a
It's
chance,
good.
do take a couple of days. It
I,
is good. So it is the biggest spiritual library in the United
I
States.
know. I was
But they also have,
sit there.
yeah, and you definitely want to. But being that you have so much information to give and to share, you might call them ahead of time and let them know that you're in town. Maybe they would do a book signing or a deck signing kind of situation. It would be interesting. Now, because of my hypnotherapy background, there is a hypnotherapy association that does their annual conference there in Virginia Beach. And so I recommend doubling up in November.
Okay. In November is a good
It's worth
time.
doing. And it's a transpersonal hypnotherapy conference. So they delve all into the spiritual. So you're going to hear about people talking about past life regression, life between lives, doing Akashic records through hypnosis, which is often how I do, and in part how Edgar did as well. Yeah, he used self hypnosis.
Yeah, the only unfortunate thing for him was because he was unconscious, he never got to benefit. And so that was always one of the things we were aware of, the three of us. And we said, we want to be awake, aware, and alert. I don't want no trance channeling, not my thing here, because I want to learn from what I share or why kind of do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
true.
that's
Thank you.
interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting point. That ability to stay conscious with it versus going more into trance channeling. Because of my background with mediumship, I've had explorations with that. And some people are better as trance channels. It's just within their physical wheelhouse. I personally do not like it. I don't like the way it feels. I can do it. I don't like it. It just feels like letting something else in the vehicle. And it's like, no, 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 no. I signed up for this meat suit. This is, I'm going to hold on to it. But I want to say that as I work with people now in hypnotherapy and as I teach people to do the records as you do, have you noticed that over the generations, they seem to be staying more and more close to the surface? There are fewer and fewer somnambulists, people who go completely into trance with no recollection. And I find that fascinating.
I hadn't thought about that, Amanda, but that's true. When I was in Australia, so decades ago, trance channels were kind of a thing. Rentha, different people, Seth. But I haven't heard of anybody really lately new to the circuit that is coming up and doing that. So again, I think there's like phases. There's what we're going to listen to at different times. And probably at that time, that was the primo way to get people interested. And now people all know about all this stuff and they are interested. So now it can be a more dynamic, co-creative process instead of coming in and inhabiting someone's body.
But I think it made sense that it had to happen that way because as it was unfolding and being delivered into society, it needed to be pure. It needed to have that lack of ego so that it could build and get to be what it is.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's all in divine timing, right? You know,
That's true.
it's not always in our timing. It's like I've learned more and more that just, oh, yes, it is better that this is happening now. Like us. Like, I mean, this is, for whatever reason, the perfect time for us to be together and do this.
So your journey kicked off from the library.
Yes, to the
And what was to the library, from the library, in the library, all the various dimensions. Where did that take you after that?
So I trained with a group of teachers that had their method that one lady had brought in. And their theory was they had 3 levels, to repeat those levels with as many different teachers as you could. So I spent a lot of time and money doing that. And at the end of that process, we had just learned to open the records of other people. I don't know, a couple of months later, I was in my records journaling away as I do, and I had an invitation. No, yes, I was at a training actually with my favorite teacher of that group, and he had given us some question. I don't remember what it was, and my response was that I needed to be. There was an invitation to be teaching the Akashic Records, so I went and talked to him. And he was so funny. He's, oh, thank God you finally got the message. I was wondering how long it was going to take you. And, whatever you need, let me know. I'll fast track you with the Dean of Studies and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, really? I think you guys do a stellar job. I don't know why you would need more people doing this. I think but anyway, I was like, okay, thanks for the confirmation. And I went home, and then I happened to talk to one of the people that was in that learn to access your client's records thing. And she spontaneously said, I've been invited to teach the records. And we had both had the same training background. And so we went, oh, okay, well, cool. Let's go together and do this training with the Dean of training. Dean of Students. And we came back. It was a terrible weekend. She had been in tears. From the teacher, which was just not a good training. And on the way back, was several hours we drove back, we were like, what the heck? What was going on there? And I don't ever want to teach like that. I don't want to attract students that will be dependent on me or anything like that. And so when we finally got back, settled down, she lived in 3 hours away from me. So we went home and we made a time to meet, and we went in our records together and said, what was the purpose of that? Because
You trained.
we're not doing.
You trained, just not what you thought you were training in that day.
And the record said, we never told you. This is assumptions. If I can make a point here, do not have any assumptions when you're in the Akashic field. I mean, it's just as best as you can. We all do, but as best as you can. We did not ask you to go there to do that teacher training. No, the other part of the deal for both of us was we would like to give you a new way to access the records and how to teach it. And we went, oh, that's a whole different proposition. So I guess we had to have the first step to go and be really clear that we didn't want to do it the old way and really buy into, yes, this is what we needed to do. So a few days later, this third person lives in Sedona, right? They said, you have to remember, this is in 2005. No Zoom, no Meetup, we were on headsets and phones. So she said, I got this message I want to tell you from the records, inviting me to receive a new way to access the records and how to teach it. And I was like, aren't you just really clever? You're the double doctorate of divinity. She got the whole thing. And I said, well, look, we've got that same message, Nancy. I would love to have you be that third person, because I know when there's 2 people, you can often entrain and you're both like, oh, yeah, this is good. But if there's a third person, and we saw this happen for us frequently throughout the years we worked together, it's easier for that person, one of them. We took our turns, wait, something's not right here. We need to go back and we need to refine this. And so I said, I would love for you to be the third person that would join Nancy and me. And for some crazy reason, she said yes. And we all had the time. And so for a few years, we worked Mondays all day together. Personal work together in the records to clear ourselves in the morning, stop for lunch, and then in the afternoon, we didn't know what to do. So we were just asking the records, what do you want us to do together this afternoon? And they would tell us what to do. The cool thing was the first thing, because I was writing everything, the first thing they had us do was I had to totally clean my computer out. All dead files, things I wasn't using anymore. I'm a big archivist. Any programs I wasn't using, it was like clean it out because it needs to have all its reserve energy to be able to handle what you're going to be putting into it and what we're bringing to you to put into it. And so I was like diligent. I went and scrubbed and cleaned and did everything. And then they did an attunement. The next step was the records of the Akashic Records integration process was its name. They came and did an attunement for my computer, for the keyboard, the monitor, and the hard drive.
Yeah.
So it could not blow out. And I was like, things you guys think of. I mean, I would just not ever have thought to do all that. So that's how we began.
I think for me, those are those moments, those are the little things that really validate the experience. And it's like, well, I certainly wouldn't have, thought of something like that.
Yeah.
And so one thing that I do tell my students is the Akashic Records really are the one modality that will teach you how to use them. And if you make a mistake, they will lovingly, but with humor, correct you and show you the right way. And to really just be diligent. But I can imagine how much you learned practicing in that way that you did of gathering in the morning and then in the afternoon. Oh my goodness.
It was like an
Wow.
intensive experience. And I think what I loved about it is it gave us all a reason to come back every week and be in the records for a long period of time. And when you start, I call it building your muscle, your Akashic muscle, you start doing that, it exponentially advances and accelerates you. Plus, we were working together, which whenever you found this, I'm sure too, whenever you gather people in that Akashic energy, there's more energy to work with. And so we had that as well. So it was good. I love the other thing I would say, yes, they teach you that. And when I graduate people, I just graduate them into the arms of their records and say, now they really will be your teachers, because I really find that is true. The other thing, and I'm curious whether you find this too, Amanda, is that if you ignore something, they'll bring it back very gently. And if you ignore it again, they'll bring it back very gently until the third time I'm usually, okay, stop everything. We're addressing this because it's the third time this has come back. And that's kind of my sign that this is really something that needs to come to the forefront now.
Before the spiritual 2x4 hits you. Yes.
I've asked no more spiritual 2x4s, please. Gentle nudges, I appreciate.
And you absolutely don't have to have them. It's having that communication of, oh, thank you for helping me to see it in a way that is going to make more sense and be a lot more gentle.
One of the things I love, they're never going to give you a hard time. If you've had parents that gave you a hard time, or people in authority or teachers or whatever, the records are just, to me, so incredibly supportive and loving and gentle, and they don't get cranky with you, even if you really get cranky with them. And I have from time to time. I was cranky when I came back and said, why did you send us to that thing? It was obviously not right, and then we made some assumptions.
And you also learned exactly what you didn't want to be.
Yes. Oh, yes. We were still clear after the weekend that was not a pathway we wanted to go down. Yes, I agree.
And so from there, you began your trainings. You began your...
Yeah, we did. We gathered a group of people at my house because I was kind of in the middle of the three of us, and I knew a lot of people that I could invite that wanted to come. So I think we had 9 people at that first one. We told them straight up, we don't know if this works. We only know that it works for us. And so we gave them a really good starter price. And we said, what you can do energetically to return the energy we put into this is give us a lot of feedback. And so at the end, we said, well, what do you think? And they said, where's Module B, we want to do the next one. When are you doing it? And we were like stunned. We had no
Yeah.
module B. We had no
Yeah.
backup. It was like we didn't really truly we didn't know if it was going to work for anybody except us. And so we were just doing that first step. And so we went back to the drawing board with the records of the Akashic Records integration process and said, how do we get into other people's records with this? And how do we teach people to do that? And so it was just a beautiful process to watch how that all unfolded. And they knew it all. It was like they knew they had it all in progression. Thank
Oh yeah.
goodness. We
Yeah.
just had never gone beyond our nose. We were so busy and focused on how do we do it for ourselves?
It's the human
Yeah.
condition. Our point of view is really the horse blinders. We've got the cheap seats, they've got the good seats. So when in doubt, always ask.
Yes.
And that's the hardest thing for us for some reason is to remember, oh, I have this tool in my back pocket. Let me go and ask for assistance.
Yeah. Please. Yeah.
And so at what point did you develop the deck?
Well, in that process of the three of us working together, there did come a time when the records invited us to create a deck. And I've had back in Australia a deck experience that was pivotal in my life. And so I had a real appreciation of what a deck could do for you. And the other two were also, they had a lot of deck experience. And so we were all really excited. And as the person that documented everything, I was trying to work out how could we share, because remember, we only could share like, I guess, PDFs. There was no screen share. I mean, it's really hard to even think about this. There was no screen share at that time. So I had to get something in Word where I could have images and text that didn't keep moving around. And I could never get that darn thing to look. It was either too narrow and the next one was fat. I didn't know enough at that time on tech. So we just regretfully shelved the project and the records were cool. Talk about patience. It must have been maybe 10 years later that they came back. And I was then working by myself because by that point, one of these ladies had passed away and the other one was well and truly retired. So what was I doing? I was probably just in my records, doing something for me. And they drop in, would you like to make a deck with us? And I was like, well, yes, I would love to make a deck, but I have this problem. And about a day or two later, I got an email announcing that this lady, Marcy Nelson Garrison, her deck mentor, her deck queen, because she'd already made a deck with this lady, was teaching her yearly card deck workshop. I said, okay, now you're bringing me the people that know the tech, that know the printers, that know the graphic designers, that know how to make one of these things. This lady that teaches that program is also an artist herself and a coach and super intuitive. She's really good. I'm sure she's in the records. She doesn't say so, but I'm sure she is. And so I felt really she would be the ideal person. And she was. And then she connected me to my graphic designer, which was her graphic designer, who, again, I really believe connected to her Akashic Records and the Dex records. And also, it was her printer that I ended up, after looking for months for somebody else, I had one printer that would give me the kind of box and quality of deck that I required. And
Yeah.
so I wanted it printed in the US in a really nice cardstock. So yeah, she made it all happen. So without her walking beside me, but the records then just gave me all the information. So it was really, that was like download city again, just
I can imagine.
type as
Yeah.
fast as you can. And it was it was the most creative thing I've ever done and the most creative thing I've done in the records, probably the most intense. They told me straight up when I said, okay, I'm taking this course, this 10-week course. They said, cancel your client, not cancel. I didn't have any clients right then. I had some trainings I was doing. Tell people you're not available to do sessions at the moment and you'll let them know when you will be and arrange for some people that you trust to be the ones you can refer people to so that while you're out of action working with the deck, they can still be taken care of. And yes, you'll do some teaching, but it won't be as much as you've been doing. So about 3 years, I took from woe to go. And it was primarily just a focus on, again, very much in that same way of, what do I do next? What do I do next? This is really funny, so I'm going to tell you this. I've been working in the deck all morning. I went to get my teeth cleaned in the afternoon. Lovely lady. I love her. I still work with her. And she said, what have you been doing? And I said, well, I'm making this Akashic Illumination Deck. And she said, wow, what is that? Tell me. So we had a big rave before we even started cleaning. So there I am for 45 minutes, laying down with my mouth open, nice bright light looking at me, and nothing to do. And so records, I'd left the records and the records of the deck open. And they said, would you like to talk with us? And I was like, bring it on. I got nothing going on here in my head. And so that's when I got that there were 3 different Akashic activities for the deck, and that there would be 20 cards in each one. And so there'd be 60 cards altogether. And I was like, man, if you are so keen to talk to me while I'm getting my teeth cleaned and that I can remember this stuff when I get out of here, I feel supported. I feel guided. And, thank you. Thank you for taking advantage of every moment. That to me was very odd.
Before we jump on here, we were having a conversation about how the deck seems to continue evolving in terms of its uses and practices. And I really want to validate that. I want to validate that experience because anytime we're doing anything in the records, whether it's a deck, whether it's a meditation, all of those things, we get so much more than we even intend or have vision for. I remember when I first started doing angel intuition work and opening up to those realms, I wasn't necessarily going into the records at that time consciously. They brought me there.
Yeah.
And so as I sat, Archangel Michael was dictating this meditation that all came about because my husband asked a question about how can I pull my power and energy back without having to eat my vegetables. That's where that came from. And so, of course, their experience is to say, well, here, let's take you through it. And so I had half the day where I experienced the energetic meditation in the tub where I do all my great work. And then afterwards, I spent the whole day and a half dictating, Archangel Michael just telling me word for word. The beautiful thing, I was a new Reiki practitioner, but I was not yet a hypnotist. That meditation still stands the test of time. As a clinical hypnotherapist, I've looked it over and the wording is immaculate. And it's like, of course you would. Of course you would know that that would be important to me later. And it's just one of those things of, I let go of expectations. I was open. I was participating in it. And I just trusted.
Yes.
And what they deliver is amazing every time. So I can easily see why that would happen with your cards as well, because that's the quality that they give.
Yes, I agree. It is amazing to me, the accuracy. Love all this light right here. The detail. Like they change, like even if I'm in a session with somebody and I say the wrong word, they'll go, no. And you go, oh, wait a minute. No, it's not that word. This is a better word. This is what they want me to say. And I've talked with other people that channel the records and they do that. Do you find that too? They're like word particular. It's amazing.
They really expanded my vocabulary. There were things that I wasn't even sure I should be referencing. I had Sandalphon talking about like the importance of the ear chakras, and I'm just like, we didn't even cover this in Reiki. Like, really?
I've heard of ear chakras.
But then, sure enough, look it up, and Sandalphon is responsible for working with music. And it's like, well, he would know that, wouldn't he? So it's just amazing how we co-create and when we can really stand aside and let it come through what we get. So tell me a little bit more about how does someone work with the deck and their records?
I work with, there's all different variations. There's people that find the deck and they buy it and they just use it. And I never hear from them. There's other people that are my clients or my students and they buy the deck and they'll come into a training with me. I call it the Sacred Bridge Immersion now. And I'm just working on an updated version of this because I've learned so much in the last 2 years since it was actually, printed. Like you can.
Do you mind showing it so we can actually see it a little better for a moment? Yeah. Of course, you've got the sacred geometry in there.
Yeah.
The beautiful infinity signal.
This was
The
our
Merkaba.
only doorway. The infinity symbol was, before we had the method to open, they were just like Focus on the infinity symbol. Everything is there, the alpha and omega. So that was part of the reason why I just wanted to honor. It's very bright. It's a little hard to see.
That's
It's the
beautiful.
same cover that's there on the deck. And where were we going with that?
And so you were saying
Yeah,
that you were saying some people buy the deck, they do nothing with it. And I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute, but Spirit always has a plan for that. So chances are those people are buying the deck and they are just the person who's meant to gift it to someone
yeah,
else.
yeah.
And then you were saying others come in and then they do the bridge event.
I meant they never get in touch with me. That's what I
Yeah.
meant by they never, I don't know what
Yeah.
they do. You know, some people, I'm sure they're
Yeah.
very intuitive. They work with decks a lot and they do whatever they're guided to do. Other people do go through training things with me. I found it was really, I worked with a focus group, several different focus groups as I was getting the deck because my lovely mentor, deck mentor said to do that. You'll get a better quality deck. Never would have thought of that by myself. And so I had people that could access their records, access the records of the deck, and some people that couldn't access anything except their own intuition because they volunteered to do it. And so the first people I gave them everything that I had so far, all the information from the records. And I said, I would like you to check this for accuracy, see if I've missed anything, give me your feedback. And so I don't know, there might have been 8 people in that group. Some of them were bigger. So like over half of them came back and said, in that part where you say who the deck is for, the users, you missed one. And one of them is for people that have no Akashic connection at all, don't even know what they are. And they do have a heartfelt, with the words were a heartfelt intuition and a strong desire to connect to their records. And you need to open that deck for them. And I was like, I had see, this is me, assumptions, right? I just assumed this Akashic Illumination Deck is going to be for people that know how to access their records. No, no, no. It's not just for them. It works all the way across the board. So I took all that with a grain of salt. I mean, I was really impressed that over half of them said that. That's pretty good odds. And so I just kept gathering information. So when I was actually teaching and using the deck with people and the prototype, I made a prototype at first. Even with that, I had people that didn't know how to open their records. They were still getting amazing things from their deck.
That's what I wondered. If each card holds that specific vibration, then they're able to kind of download and work through the imagery and through the vibration of the card to then have better access.
That's why it's a tangible thing now. Is because
They're like
images,
they're like tuning forks, but they're
yeah.
yeah.
It's a prompt deck too. People are more familiar. I never heard of a prompt deck before. Marcy, my deck mentor, she said, there are all these different kinds of decks. And I was like, oh, well, it could be that or that or that. But as I kept working with it, I realized this is a prompt deck. It prompts you to engage with your records. So it's particularly wonderful if you have questions or if you don't. It also works if you just go, I don't even know what to ask. But I'm just like, I feel like there's something important for me to understand. What is that? Or you can just do a topic, marketing. Give me a spread on marketing, the best way to market. Or you can do it for anything. And it was so amazing to me that as the more and more feedback came in, I have no doubt now that it works under the most extreme conditions, no sacred space even. People have been drinking and partying after a birthday party. For hours, people have been doing this, and I got to do a deck presentation, and I just wanted to get out of there and drive home because it was supposed to rain. So I wasn't even in a very sacred space. It's like, okay, how fast can I do this? And sent it around. The guy next to me at the end of 15 or 16 people in this very big table only got the dregs, what was left of the deck. But he had asked a heartfelt question. He didn't know anything. He was a construction guy. He flipped houses in his 40s.
I love that. I love it when it's a logical type person.
Just one of those lovely guys, right? And so he could only pick his card, one infusion, one exploration card, and one symbol card from what he got. And so at the end, he turned to me and he said, this deck is kind of spooky, isn't it? And he must have seen my horror because I don't like to be spooky. I want it to be profound. And he saw my face and he went, but in the best of ways. And so I went, okay, it's still profound, but he's just using different language. And I said, yes, it is. He said, can I share my question and the cards I received? And I said, sure. Still dying to be going, but I'm so glad that he was right next to me and he gave me his question. He showed me the cards and we just looked at each other. I mean, it was just like, obviously, you got just what you needed. And he just needed that validation. It's like, yes, this is real. And this is your answer. And it is your truth. Bless you. It was to me,
You
to have the deck work that well under such adverse conditions really showed me it was my transformative moment for myself, because then I realized I didn't have to go to a whole lot of la-di-da sacred space, have everybody's records open and all that kind of stuff. Then it could be really simple as pick a card, have your question in your heart and pick a card from each of the activities that goes around.
You've touched on some really important parts. One of them, and this is the thing that I harp on my students for the most, and I let them know ahead that we're going to be having a conversation and that I'm going to drill this in over and over. When you're asking questions, your wording in the records is just so important for so many reasons. Is that your experience as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ask with clarity, because if you can't, I think the best part about questions are they articulate it for you. If you cannot state a straightforward, very clearly worded, I don't care about the grammar, clearly worded question, then you're not clear enough in yourself to even receive. I call it static on the line. It's like you're more worried about what the performance level on this, how's this going to work, or not trusting, did I really open my records or any of that? It's like, be real clear on what your question is and that you intend to go into your records and get whatever is for your highest good to receive. Yeah. So questions they're like prime the pump. They like, I was so much into questions at the beginning with the other teachers that when I had a client and they would just ramble on, this has been going on in my life and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And we would finally run down and I would say, and your question for your records is? And then they would get this really lucid question. And I was like, oh, so I learned some people, that's how they have to do it. They have to get all the guacamole out and then they can get to the nugget of what their truth is that they really need to know.
Just like the computer, right? The computer had to prepare for the space of the files and the vibration of them. The clients are the same. And then the other point is getting students to practice. Yeah. That is the biggest pitfall that I'm having right now. I have not taught how to read for other because I'm not happy with the quality of students after they leave in terms of practicing. They go home and then they let it sit.
Yeah, they need to work on themselves first. I mean, that's the deal. I won't take anybody to do my next level unless they have really developed a practice of working for themselves. Because they have to know, what does it feel like in the energy? And when I ask questions that are in like relationships or health or career or whatever else, how we go into different areas and how it feels different and how do we clear? I mean, I'm sure you have some way, Amanda, of, you teach them how to clear. Information by itself is kind of useless. I did work this out many years ago. And so I don't care how much information the records could give you, ad infinitum, past life stuff or whatever. If you don't do something with it, what's the purpose? And I'm not very good about, I'll come back in a week and do that part. It's like that happen in the moment when I'm in that immersed experience of whatever it is, I just really don't want to keep doing it anymore. And then I understand where it came from, what I'm trying to learn from it, what I haven't learned from it. And then, get to that point where I can say genuinely, all right, bring the healing on because I don't want to be here anymore. And it's a surrender. You surrender at that point all that rubbish, and you have no idea how it could be fixed, because if you could fix it, you would have fixed it, right? We're all smart people.
Exactly.
And so it's like letting it go, letting the divine do the work.
So I do teach surrender is a big part of a lot of the things I do, but primarily preparing to enter into the records. But then also, if you've got your biggest life challenge, you've already been combating it. Your ego's already tied in. You've already lost power to it. What more do you want to hand it before you say, okay, time to go to the experts and see what they have to say? But I love that you've got this tool that can help them formulate their questions and then give them that little push to, you know what, let me just go validate it in my records and get a little more insight and then be in the records.
It also, I've found too, and I've had a lot of people validate this for me, it takes you beyond what your conscious mind knows. And I think that's one of those card deck marvels, the part of the card deck magic. But I really find it's particularly profound with the Akashic Illumination Deck, because you can go in with a set of questions, as you know, Amanda. And if you're supposed to get guided somewhere else, no matter if you didn't even ask that particular beautiful thing, but you somehow opened up that pathway for them to come down to you and give you that information, they will get you that information.
They are really good. They're really good at those last little, oh, hey, by the way, you need to do A, B, and C. And it's like, oh, thank you.
That's why I always tell people at the end, whether they're using the deck or just straight Akashic session stuff, for people that do that, I always ask periodically, what else? You know, if you're finished with one card, you think, right? You feel complete, you feel. Ask your records or ask the deck, what else? If anything. And sometimes there's nothing. They're like, you can go on now, we're ready for the next one. Or it's like, whoa, and this whole other part opens up. You're like, all right, and start writing again. Yeah,
Yeah,
revisiting. I call it revisiting because practicing was kind of not, nobody likes to practice. And so it's like, okay, what would be a better, juicier word? And visit with them often. It's like a relationship that is
it is.
the sweetest, most loving, most wonderful experience. So why wouldn't you want to go to be with them on a regular basis? You know, find a way to make it easy to, you know, do some kind of spiritual practice with your records if you know how to access them. Do not leave it. I thought when I first learned, some reason, oh, you know, I can leave this for 6 months and then go open my records in that original method. And in an emergency with this huge trauma, and it's like a major life and death thing, and have full on phone channel, right? I didn't know I had to come back and develop that to that point where, yes, if you have an emergency, you don't even have to open the formal way. You can just say, police, I need you now. Come. You can be in the emergency room and open your records just like that. That's when I kind of go, oh, there's a little more to this than just go take the class and then pull out that notebook, you know, in a year or so when you feel guided to do that. Much better to do it right away, that week, keep going, keep going, keep going with it. And just be
That is one of my favorite aspects of the records. It's not just going in and working on challenges and problems and growth. It's the healing. It's that you can go in and you don't have to receive a message. You can just be there to heal and to raise vibration and to entrain to the energy of the records and then come out and make profound art or beautiful music or write something wonderful.
be a better mom than you would have been without that little time. I had one lady, and that's pretty much all she did. She had two little kids, and she just, I love what the part we call Akashic stillness, the part where we just open our records and just sit in front of the divine with our records supporting us. We don't ask any questions. We simply, she says, for 15 minutes, I get to relax and receive and fill up. And she said, I can tell you I'm a better mom and I'm a better wife than I would be. I do this on a regular basis, frequent.
Sure. And she's going to be more mindful of those children, of their soul missions, their contracts, their natural affinities, why their behavior is what it is. And it's not because they're trying to get a jab in at her.
Right.
It's because they're going through something. She'll have that better perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons, you know, to be in the records. And if you're like me, I'm a very, I studied a lot of things. As I was a naturopath, I was very interested in a lot of metaphysical things, including Reiki and hypnotherapy, but I never learned that. I did learn to do Reiki 1 and 2 and Reiki Master, all that. But it was the records. So I was in my 50s when I found the records. So if you're later in life and you were like me and like, what am I here to do? I don't know what I'm here to do. The records were my doorway into my purpose. And I always encourage people, you're never too old. It's never too late. It is easier when you don't have little kids because I think they're very time consuming and energy consuming. So when they're a little older and you have more time for yourself, it makes it easier. But I do know people, they have little kids and they're really staunch in the records, how they deal with their little kids. So it's a very, I'm never bored. And that's why I keep coming back, is
Right.
because they surprise me. They make me laugh right out loud. And I don't tend to do that very much. And they will say things that are like one of their things one time. I was just journaling. I was talking with them. We were going back and forth and dropped into it. The records are like Google for your soul.
Yep.
And I was like,
Yeah.
That's cool. That is definitely you and not me, because that's a little soundbite thing. And then they said, only, when you type in something to Google and search on it, Google doesn't care about you, but your records love you through all your lifetimes. They are with you through all your lifetimes, and they do care about you, and they are here for you. And so I was like, you guys rock. Yeah, you guys rock.
And considering all of the numerous guides and everything, one thing that I love to do is mediumship in the Akashic Records, because it's a different vibration. It's a different radio signal. And so when you think about it, all of those different layers, all of those different guides, and they do care. You've got your ascended masters. You've got the masters through which you made all of your soul's agreements and contracts.
They're all there.
And they are invested, and they will lovingly redirect. That's the best thing ever.
Yes. Yeah. And I love it for me, and maybe not necessarily for everybody, but for me, they have one voice. And so if there's like maybe angels and ascended masters and my teachers, and maybe they all have a piece of the puzzle of whatever it is I'm working on, but I don't know. Oh, and then we have to address this person and that one and that being. And, it gets complicated and confusing for me. And so I love we somehow have this agreement, one voice, like a funnel. So it always feels like a funnel.
I don't experience it that way.
No.
But I can see why it would be helpful. Yeah. But I also and lately I've been having a series of weird experiences. I do something called spirit releasement, which means I'm going to help people remove entities that they've gotten through a myriad of ways, you name it. And lately, Master Hilarion has been coming into my sessions, and I wasn't prepared for that. He just showed up and brought sacred geometry and ran it through my client, and then it was like, boop, turkey's done. And I was just like, this whole time? Really? It could have been that fast. But had I asked differently, had I gone to other guides, I would have had different responses and different rates of vibration and frequency and different approaches. I've gone in the past. Are you familiar with Dolores Cannon?
Yes. Yes. Never got to work with her or anybody that does her work, but it was certainly, again, another one of my big interests. It just never found the right person.
So one of the things is Dolores didn't believe in entity attachments or things getting trapped. She didn't believe in earthbound spirits attaching to the client. She didn't believe in ET spirits or any of those things hooking into us that way. But I've had too many experiences, and so I can't discount what I've experienced. And so I was really curious about how her perspective has changed since she's passed. And I thought, let me just ask if I can. I did. I asked if I could meet her in the records, and then I got all those answers. And then you know how the records are, and more. So she ended up giving me a whole protocol for a subsect of people who would need a different vibration. And so I think there is benefit in having individual voices. And then I went to meet Michael Newton and Dr. Alan Chips and find out their takes on life between lives from their different perspectives. So I think there's benefit to the individual streams of information, as well as just having it all as one focused beam.
Yes, I agree. I don't do mediumship. I've had people come through from the other side for a client because they've asked for those people. And I'm not trained in mediumship, and it's not one of my super gifts, but I have had, not so much speaking, but I sometimes Archangel Michael will turn up for people. And it's more like the visual and the blue and the sword. And, we're going to be cutting these ties, and Michael is here to do that. And then, I work with Archangel Michael every day. It's part of my prayer process that I invoke him to be with me. And I said, well, no wonder why he's here then for you. And so he's going to do his thing for you. I had never thought about going into the records, into the realms of people that have passed, and inviting someone that I respect to communicate with me. I'm going to do that. I think
That's
that'll
one
be.
that's one approach. And then the other approach is just inviting that person's team. So when you go in and do your readings, inviting the loved ones in spirit to join them too. And you'll feel the difference in vibration. And it's interesting to know, like, oh, this is a being that's never incarnated versus this one's definitely had an incarnation. So it's really fun to notice like the subtle energy of it. I'm a fan, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But we could have fun, Amanda.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. I'd love to hear more about your readings and what are some of the top experiences that you've had there.
One of the things, unfortunately, that I find is that because they're not mine, there's like an amnesia thing that happens, and I don't remember. And so a
Yes.
lot of times somebody, they had a reading with me, a session with me, 3 or 4 years ago, and they contact me again and they say, well, when we were together last in my records, they said blah, 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 blah. And they have all this like stuff that they remember. And I always go, wow, the records were cooking with good gas that day. I mean, I was
I
like, how
have
did that even happen? So when it comes to stories,
that same
do
experience.
you? Okay.
I have the same experience, but I don't do as many readings these days because I prefer just to do hypnosis and have the client be in there themselves. So I don't do it from that respect. But when I was recording them. And I like to send it as an audio file rather than a sit in front of you reading because my schedule's full. And I don't remember them after either. It's just only when people come back and say, oh, here's what hit, here's what my experience is. When they validate that, then I get to get that perspective and have a little bit of recall.
You do it differently than me. I can see where that would be even harder to keep that recall. I bring my clients with me into their record.
Yeah.
So we're there
Yeah.
together. And it's a very much okay, you ask your questions. What do they say? What comes up for you from that? And we do a lot of, like, let's say the records suggest that maybe there's some really thorny problem that has lots of different disparate aspects to it. And that's when most often the records will say to me, well, get a symbol for all that they have said about this topic, all they have thought, all they have shared with you, and all they have not, what they know consciously and what they do not know. Have all of that be included in the symbol. And so I'll share that with the person and I say, so we're both because we're both together in your records, right? I want you to be open on all that, seeing, hearing, feeling, no, tasting and smelling, be open to it. You never know.
That's an activation. That's more than a reading. That's a full on activation.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I do my discovery call. I always like open up to all your clairs because you're going to be working hard. Bring some water because it can be thirsty work.
That's right. That's right.
And so what symbol are you getting? And then I will just sit with their records and we just journal. So we have independent. And then I've always said, would you like me to go first or would you like to go first? And whatever, right, happens. And sometimes the symbols are really uncannily similar. And other times it's like they got a piece and I got a piece and the records can merge them into an even better one symbol. And then we can go into that symbol when they're ready. And the deal, all I ever know with symbols is if they're in the card deck too, you walk into the symbol and you just spend your time there experiencing whatever comes, or you walk through it to what's behind the symbol and experience whatever that is. And I always
It's
tell
so
people you can share on the tape if you want, because you're kind of in an altered state here. So if you do that, or if you prefer to be silent, you can be silent. And if they just stay there sometimes too long, I mean, I'm journaling what I'm getting because I'm there as well. But I'll just really gently say, so what's happening there? And then they'll start talking and sharing about what's been going on. So I love that they get to experience the energy of their records. They get to experience getting their own truth. And sometimes they get stuff, and I always tell them in the discovery call, if something is going on and I'm not saying anything about it, please bring it up, because it might be something that only you can receive. So bring it up. There's somebody else here in this past life that I feel I know in this lifetime I would like to get closer to that person. And then it's like, okay, then that person is there for me, but wouldn't have been there before because that client was the one that had to connect with them first. And then we can go do whatever work they need to have done as well. So it's like I said, it's like a never ending fascination. I learn. My deal is I want to learn every time I do a session, and I do learn. I have experiences that I do learn from them. I do write in my posts every once in a while. I'll do I ask if something has been really, I think, appropriate for more than just a person to have for themselves, but has some general truth for that would be beneficial for other people to read about or understand. This is how an Akashic session could go. I get their permission, and I will go back and listen to the recording because I do recordings as well.
Mhm.
Audio, I don't, unless they're overseas, I have to do it. But we turn our visuals off, and I just send the audio. But I will kind of try to do just like Michael Newton did, like a transcript of this, they said that, the record said this, and walk through the thing. So it is, I like to do those. I haven't done one of those in a while, maybe in January. Maybe in a
Yeah.
year I'll focus on doing that. Send me somebody really cool and juicy that has a really cool, like, very applicable to a lot of people topic, and let's go through the session. I've been teaching more about the deck lately, so I haven't been doing so many sessions, so it's not kind of really top of mind for me.
We have those different phases as spirit entrepreneurs. It's the wildest thing. And sometimes it's just that thought of, oh, I would love to do a session where someone's had an ET experience they want to explore. That happened just last week. I had the thought to myself silently. And then, of course, within a couple of days, there's someone on my books looking for exactly that. And I just kind of raise my hands to my husband. I'm like, dreams come true. I get exactly what I asked for.
I
Wild.
I do remember, and this is not going to help answer that question. One of my most recent people was a guy, and I do usually work mostly with women, so it was a real treat to have a guy. Done decades of spiritual work, and he had amazing 6 really wonderful questions, all about kind of his soul purpose. And he stated them. He even had an intention. He said, "Can I read my intention before, once the records are open? Can I read my intention?" I said, "Oh, yes, please." I love it when people do that. So he read out this beautiful intention. Then he read all the questions, and I did a little bit. Oh, yes, that's right. And now I remember. Thank you. So there was one word, because I write the questions down as they give them to me. And there was one word, and I said to him, it was the 5th question. I said, I got the front of it, this, and then there's one word missing. And then the end of it is this. Just, if you can, don't change that word. Just give me that word, because that word blew me out and is really important for you. And because it just went like that. And he said, vision. And I said, okay, this is where your records want to start. It is all about the vision you have. It's your soul contract. It's your life purpose. And so that is where, and so we went into the vision and all this stuff. And he did so well. And we did a lot of healing work, clearing work, so he could embody that vision to a higher vibration. But he did a lot of the work himself. And so I call it divine direct action. When we're ready to surrender, I don't do this anymore. I don't know how to do it. So bring in the divine to do that. Normally I'm right there with my person and I'm watching, feeling, journaling what's going on because they may or may not be so aware. The records were really clear. Nope, he is doing just fine. Leave him alone. He did all his work silently. And they had me go back and read all of his questions to see, where have we need to go back. And it was the first question, answered that. Second question, that's been answered. Third question, yep. Fourth question, yep. Fifth one, the whole thing is the fifth one. And the sixth one was the only one that was a little bit like, well, we don't know. Ask him that. And so when he was done, I told him what I'd been doing. I said, normally I would be with you and I'd be able to, augment what you had received, but you and the divine were like cooking with gas, so you're good. And so I checked back through all of them, and the only one was the sixth one. And so I said, I want you to look at all those questions and I want you to tell me, are you happy? Has that been addressed to your satisfaction? Yes, 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 yes. And the sixth one, he just took it in a different tangent. And so he was one of those lovely people. I've had this happen a few times for myself. I do like my whole session myself, but it takes another person to hold that energy for me to be able to do that. And so when I had my two colleagues, we would do this. And every once in a while, one of us would just run away with the whole session. It was our session. It was like, we're channeling our records. And somebody else would write notes for us because we weren't able to write notes at that point. So it was really delightful to work with someone that, and when we put our videos back on, because he happened to be overseas at the time, we put our videos back on, he was laying down on the couch in his hotel room. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad to see you were laying down because you were doing such amazing inner work yourself. So I'm really glad your body could fully relax. So he was a magic one for sure.
Yeah. That is really special when you get to just be holding the doorway.
Holding that space, that container
Yeah.
for them to do it. I think it's really meaningful for them because it's not a third party facilitating anymore. They facilitate for themselves. So I was just very delighted for him.
That is the most important thing out of everything, is that they feel empowered to connect on their own and to use it and to be with it. It doesn't get any better than that.
No. I think that, we're both, again, transformed. I mean, he had that, I'm sure, a higher frequency, a higher vibration. He can carry that vision forward now. And for me to just be with someone who could do that level of work also brought my vibration up. So, yeah, sweet. Never born, you never know. You never know what's going to go on. And that's a great way to start. Be curious. What's going to happen today?
Oh, we've had a lot of things to explore. Goodness, I could talk to you forever. There's so much we could cover. It's such a vast, fun realm to play in, and you're so knowledgeable. I love that. You've got some trainings that you're working on. Some of them are virtual.
Yes. So I do teach people. I've been teaching. I started live in my living room, and then Zoom happened. COVID was a wonderful thing for me, for the records. And so we all got used to meeting on Zoom. And so I changed my format and broken. Instead of, the blessing was that I didn't have to do everything in 2 days and just watch people wilt. It is exhausting. There's so much energy coming in and for new people. And so I could do it over 8 weeks. So we meet 3 times, 3-hour restroom breaks and stuff like that. I also, a while ago, it was before COVID, I was asked by the records to make an audio version of the training, again, to do it in pieces. So I didn't have to have people. That's only 2 hours of audio for 8 weeks. And what I've been guided to do with that is kind of like an update of it, because I noticed that a lot of people weren't really interested in that training. And if they did take it, they didn't complete it. And I find that online trainings where you're solo practitioner doing your thing, I myself, I will freely admit, I'm not good at follow through with that. So what I started doing this summer was offering people, I want to learn and I want to learn now, and I don't want to wait until whenever you'll do another course. And actually I would like to do self-paced because I'm either overseas or I'm on the East Coast and my best time is 6:30 in the morning, and maybe that's not so good for you, but whatever variation of that is, I said, well, I would like to offer you that I mentor you through this. Like you have an agreement with me that you will listen to each recording 2 hours, do the home joy. It gets home joy because it's so much fun to be in your records before we get together. And we're going to book 8 times where we get together. So, I have to get this done before this date. I have to get section 2 done before this date. It will make you accountable. And what I want to do in that 20 to 30 minutes is give you the opportunity to ask any questions that weren't covered, because it's with a group that was live at the time. So they asked brilliant questions, but sometimes people have other ones. And I'd also like for you to read and share what your records gave you for each integration process. I call them integration processes because records, they say exercises are too schoolish and not so fun for people. But an integration process integrates everything you've learned to that point. And then the next one is everything you've learned to that point. So when they share the integration processes with me, I can mentor them. If they say, well, they couldn't really hear them, or it wasn't really clear, it was like foggy or not misty or whatever. Well, did you ask them to make the image brighter? Did you ask them to turn up the sound? Did you say, I can't hear you? Just talk to them. They are doing their best to talking to you. And you have to give them feedback instead of going, well, and different people are different with that. Some are more that way and some are not. Some have had more experience, like mediumship or Reiki or things like that. So they have a broader background and they work intuitively better with their records. So that's been a real fun thing. I get to do live stuff with people on Zoom, 1-to-1, which I love, targeted to just what they could most appreciate and benefit from, to reinforce everything they've learned at that one time. So that's where I've been primarily focused. I will be doing a module B, teaching other people to open for other people, places, and things. I'll be doing that. I think we start in April, maybe March. I'm sorry, I didn't look before I began next year. So I will be doing that. And that will be on Zoom. And that will be live. Because I haven't worked out how do we do that on a self-paced thing. You have to have people to work with, right? So they work with each other. We do breakout rooms and they go in there, open each other's records and stuff.
Sounds like an amazing experience. Really well supported all the way through.
It's, I love getting trainings from the records because they are just like, this and then this and then this. And of course it's evolved over the years. I add more now than I ever had before. The integration processes, I get to customize them from the records of that group. There's always at least 2 that I customize. What does this group need at this point? What set of questions would be best for them? So we do different things. So even if you take the same class, you have different people that are participating and at least those 2 integration processes. So there's layers and layers of learning in it and experience. And even every time I go back over, the manual has grown to like 100 pages now. It's crazy. When I read every single word of it, and I didn't understand the ramifications of that. That is, and that's been in there since the first one. That's so amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the records are timeless, and that which comes through them is often timeless too. It's just an amazing phenomenon, just another validation of the work that we do.
Yep, I agree.
So I will do my best to have all of your information up. So if someone wants to have an exploration of their records, come and have a reading with you, or they're interested in exploring the deck or the class, they know exactly how to do that. You were infinitely kind, and you offered to make a coupon for the listeners today. So there is a 20% off opportunity and free shipping to the US. I will have that on the blog post.
Great. And also, because we've talked more about the self-paced one for the module A, for learning to open your own records, and your people might be interested in that. My bonus for them is they don't pay for my time. I will be there with them all the way along. And I'm very generous with my time. if they are truly wanting to learn to access their records and they want a mentor to walk through them, just when they contact me, just say, I came from Amanda's podcast and you said that you could do this for me, an added extra for free. And yes, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you so much. I'm going to send that along to previous students, and I hope that Soulful Seekers, you do look at what is possible and have a different experience, learn a different way, and see if you can integrate this into your life even more.
Yes, and
That would
blend
be
them,
amazing.
blend the best of both and have something even better. You know, that's to me what is so exciting is there are many avenues to the records and many ways to work with them. So I'm sure there'll be wonderful things from Amanda that you've learned because she has that mediumship background. I mean, that's a really different, and the hypnotherapy part.
It is different.
They're different strengths that we have here.
And everyone will. There will be things that students have taken, your students, my students, and they will have a different purpose, a different approach in terms of what they're meant to encounter and do in the records. I know people who only do galactic Akashic records. I know people who only do twin flame stuff. There are going to be various places and spaces that they're meant to explore in detail that I will never know. And that's okay.
We don't have, all of us have to do everything. I think that it's one of the beauties. I know people that do business coaching with the records. I think that's
Absolutely.
a fascinating aspect of it.
Yes.
People that do health, they're particularly, maybe thought that I would have done that as a naturopathic background. No way, Renee, it's not happening for me, unfortunately. So I love it when people kind of find their niche in the records and specialize and really go very deeply into that aspect. It's so beneficial.
I don't know when Bach began their flower essences, but I can tell you that Edgar Cayce was giving recipes through the records way sooner.
This was Dr. Bach.
Ah,
He
okay.
was a Harley Street physician in England. He would go out and my naturopathic stuff. I love Bach flowers. He would go out and he'd experience the emotion of it and go and find the flowers and then make the essence of them and bring them back. But yeah, talk about a channel. I mean, he was a very gifted and home channel too. And especially the emotions of that time were very keyed in. And now we have other additional flower essences that people continue to make that are, more attuned to different eras. But I still,
the zeitgeist.
the go-to is Bach. I did some Bach rescue remedy before we began, just because I was feeling a little butterfly-ish, and I was in my water, and it just really made a difference.
Yeah. But it was wild to me going through Edgar's Akashic record readings, how he had and full-on recipes for food. He's just downloading whatever he wants, off God's internet.
Right.
Just bring it on down. It's all in his readings, which are available digitally as well as in person when you go to the ARE.
I just find them really kind of hard sometimes to understand his language. There's a guy with a very strange name that I don't remember right now, but he did a brilliant deciphering of Edgar Cayce and the Akashic Records, which I highly recommend that book.
Is it Mr. Tedeschi?
Yes, Tadashi. Yes, he is brilliant. I mean, I can read that book and understand that book. It was just like, thank you. There was something, if everything else I had read dictated by Edgar, I couldn't
Modernized it.
it wouldn't stay in there. So I'm glad that you've been able to do more with his original stuff than I have been able to.
It's just a marvel to see it. It's just a marvel. They've got his green sofa that he used to do his meditations and trance on, and it's just the whole experience. So fun. Did you want to show us a couple of the cards so that people can get visual and sense of what they are?
So it always begins with a personal letter from me. I write something sometimes a little bit different. If I know you, then it's definitely different. And then there are these 4 double-sided called basic instructions. So if you know nothing about the card, how to use a card deck, it's get you started.
I love that you don't have to have experience with any kind
No.
of other cards and you can just dive in. It's its own standalone system,
Yes.
and then you can expand on it by going into your records.
Yes. So let's just pick one for your group. Can you read that?
Ah, courage.
Courage. So
Yeah,
this is an
that's so appropriate.
infusion. Man, we have so much. Just step away for a second.
That's wild. That Merkaba with the pink, when I had my class, that was kind of the imagery I used on my slides. Wild to see the
That's a
same
little bit better.
imprint.
Yeah, there we go. So its
Fusions.
infusions are this gentle infusion of Akashic energy, of courage. So if anybody's watching, you're watching this because courage is beneficial for you right now in whatever's going on in your life. So what I do with this one, there's 20 of these, any of these, I just put them on my heart and I just breathe in like all those little bubbles of Akashic energy that are carrying courage. And I breathe them into every level of my being. So my physical body, my emotional body, my mental body, my spiritual body. Just welcoming them and grateful, courage. Courage is from your heart. Courage is that gets you through the things you think you can't do where fear is so bad. Courage comes in and helps you to walk that pathway you have to walk. So it's a beautiful. I'm glad you got that.
Trying to recall which training it was I was in last week, but that was actually what I had asked for.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
so it was. I've taken a lot of trainings all in one quick session, and they're all starting to meld in my
And
mind.
yeah, I know what that's like. So
That
just
thing was more courage.
know that this works on a soul level too. And so it lasts for days, weeks, months, years. As long as it's useful to your soul, you'll keep. It's like a pipeline from the records, an infusion of courage. So it's now there for all your folks. Let's pick an exploration card, hey, for the group. You can hold that idea too. Explorations are the common places we go in the records. So let's just see which one they pop up for everybody. I'm sitting here shuffling. I'm just taking the one on the top. They tell me, lovely.
Yeah.
This is, fire, earth, air, water, all the elements. It is if you got this, it would be like get off at, like they use this train line stations, the Akashic main line. And this is a station, nature. And so get off at the one that's labeled nature and go out and spend some time. Look, feel, connect with the water, the air. If you can get to someplace where they're all there, I'm very blessed. I have it all right here. It's just, this is what your soul would be nourished by right now. Some time out in nature. So with the Thanksgiving coming on, I think that was a brilliant one for them to do. They're different. I mean, here's a totally different one. This is the one for past lives. So, it was a fun one to find. This is an inner child one. So you can just see they're really super different. The infusions all pretty much look the same. This is relationships. I'm just taking them off the top. And this last one I'll show you is ancestors.
Mm.
So ancestors are speaking to you if you get that one. Alrighty, so then the last one are symbols, Akashic symbols. These are they have a lot of purposes. They kind of accelerate. So wherever they turn up, you pick whichever card you want to pick first. Symbols are like taking you beyond the current norm for you, and they offer a lot of healing. There's a lot of cards in the symbols that are invoking healing in different ways. Okay, so first one on the top. Oh, you're a friend.
Yeah, he's present in everything.
So divine empowerment. So this is an invitation to journey with the divine, that everything you need. It's an invigorating. Remember, the idea with a symbol is to walk into it, which is certainly with a Merkaba you would be doing that, or perhaps walk through it and see what's on the other side. But this symbol, I would probably be wanting to spend more time right inside of it. So there's that one. There's another. This is a healing one, being an enhancement. So this is the divine actually doing a DNA enhancement. So when that turns up, let's say you've been working with your ancestors and then you get that card. It's like, then we know that the DNA is getting fixed.
Generational healing.
Yep. Divine lift and clear, just bursting out, is encapsulating everything and just you're letting it go. So another very healing one. And I'll show you one more. Maybe show up better. Oh, I like this one. This one is expansion and in all the directions of the compass. And these are alive. I mean, a lot of them, they whirl around, they move, they do stuff. They're particular colors. This is green for growth, all different shades of green.
It's similar to Hilarion was showing me a symbol and I wasn't familiar with it, but that one has similar movement to it. Like he was trying to show me like these lines spiraling out from a center point. And I'm just like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I know. No,
but that it has this color, but that's very similar.
It's interesting trying to translate these. They came to me I didn't ask for them either, many years before the card deck. And I would just document because I document everything. And what it drawed as best, I'm such a bad drawer, draw as best as they could. And then what colors or the movement or what its purpose was. And then when it came time, they said, oh, symbols is going to be the third activity. I was like, oh, now I know what those things are for. So I went back, revamped, got some new ones. And then I had to give it to my graphic designer. So it's like, okay.
Yeah. And then you're taking this 4D concept and you're compressing it down. It's just so hard.
And she somehow, she got it. And that's why I said, I'm sure she had to be in the records of the deck because, I mean, she was a deck graphic designer. I mean, that's one of her major works that she did was people's decks. And I asked her at one point, because I want to just do this a little bit. And I would have this whole list of things to do. On this card, do this, that. And I wrote to her and I said, am I bugging you? Is this driving you crazy? Do you dread when you get an email from me? I would like to know. And she said, actually, when I get to work on your deck, I feel nothing but joy because it's just so wonderful to work with all three aspects of it. And she said, no, please ask for whatever you want. And she did unlimited edits. It was in one price.
Beautiful.
It was amazing. She was an angel.
Contract. That deck was coming through.
Shall I show you one last one just for fun? This is an exploration portal. So if you need to go somewhere, there's also that in there. It was fun.
Goodness. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time, your insights. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you for your really thoughtful questions. I could really feel you, not only what you were curious about, but what would be beneficial for the people that listen. You're really tuned in to what might be helpful for them as well. And so then to ask a question that would draw that out was so much better than me just chatting on, which may or may not have been interesting to your people. So thank you.
I am sure it would have, but that natural curiosity and coaching tendency just doesn't go away.
No, they're good traits. They're good traits. Yeah. That's for sure. And I didn't
what a fun experience.
Need like loud noise or anything.
As she lays there snoring. I'll point the camera over after so you can see that. Oh, goodness. Well, thank you for a wonderful exploration. And Soulful Seekers, if you have questions, you want a reading, you want to know about the class or how to deepen into your records, I highly recommend exploring with Sandra. I'm going to put everything I can into the blog post and into the show notes for you to make it as easy as possible. But have a wonderful journey, and here is a new possible guide. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, most of all, stay inspired. Bye for now. Alrighty.